Hello everyone, and welcome once again to I've Been Playing. This week, we're taking a look at Curse of the Sea Rats. Curse of the Sea Rats is a relatively new Metroidvania, or according to the Steam page, it's a Ratroidvania or Ratoidvania or something like that, but other than saying it just now, I'm not going to use it because first of all, it's very hard to say, and no, it's mainly because it's really hard to say. Sorry, there's only so much smushing together of words you can do in English before it just sounds silly. But in any case, this came out in April and it is on every platform. The story, probably unsurprisingly, follows a crew of rats, specifically rats who were housed on a prison ship, but they weren't rats before, so they were originally on this ship, but a pirate witch comes along and turns everyone into rats, and in order to gain their freedom, they're allowed to go off and defeat this witch, and if they defeat the witch, then they're going to be set free, is kind of basically the starting point of this game. Once this happens, you're able to choose from one of the 4 different playable character rats. They all have different abilities, strengths, weaknesses, probably like you'd expect, and then you can just go off and have an adventure. So first of all, the first thing I noticed, literally because it's on the title screen, is the soundtrack and how good it is. It's a really good soundtrack. I loved it immediately. I was hooked just immediately by the title screen music. It's really atmospheric. It's really lovely. I think it suits the mood perfectly of the whole game. It's very reminiscent of sea shanties is the best way I can put it, I suppose. And it's really, really nice. The entire thing is also hand-drawn, and it's really pretty. You can tell it's hand-drawn. It's really nice to look at. Seems to be animated pretty well. I know next to nothing about how that works, but it seems like it looks really good. Even the voice acting is pretty decent, considering. It's a lot of fun, doesn't take itself too seriously, and you can tell there's a lot of passion behind the project, which makes the entire thing, the story, the cutscenes, the visuals, just the whole presentation, it makes it very pleasing, very fun. You can tell they loved what they were doing, and I love when that happens because it makes the game more enjoyable that way, even regardless of quality. So I myself am not big on Metroidvanias. Usually this, I think, is probably the first one I've ever played, certainly one of the first few I've ever played. Curse of the Bloodstained Moon, or whatever it's called. I think I tried that one at some point, but that's the only other one I remember having any experience with, and I wasn't very good at that one. But of course, it has the interconnectedness and the blocked paths that you'd expect of the genre. I am at least aware kind of how they function, so those things are in there. I personally found the combat to be a bit difficult, but I don't know if that's because I've never really played this type of game before, or if it's just a bit unbalanced. I think it's a little bit unbalanced, but I don't know how much of it is unbalanced versus me being bad. I definitely wish there was some sort of proper dodge button, because even though it said I unlocked it, I never seemed to find it. I don't know what I was doing. All I seemed to be able to do was a block, which didn't even seem to work half the time. So either I was hitting the wrong button, which is entirely possible, or it's not a dodge, it is just a block. And also it doesn't work, so that's kind of a problem. There's also one time when I was exploring and I had a key and I knew where a locked door in the area was, and when I got there, it kept saying I didn't have a key for the door, and I was getting very annoyed because I was like, I do have a key, this is the only door I'm aware of, but apparently it was to another door somewhere lower down in that area that I didn't even know existed, which maybe was my fault for not exploring enough, but also there was no indication that there would be more than one door. It was like the first door I came up against. There was nothing to differentiate this key from any other key, because it was just the kind of general area. It wasn't like door 1 or iron door or, whatever. There was no indication that it could have been a key to somewhere else. I did eventually find it, but some sort of indication that maybe it goes somewhere else would have been nice. One of the nice things is that you can switch up characters basically at any time, so if you feel like you picked the wrong one for you, you are able to change. There are, of course, save rooms, again, how you would expect in the genre, where you can go and not only does it save your game there, but it serves as a respawn point. You can also, so there's this mentor guy in there that you can talk to, and you can either unlock skills or switch characters. The problem is that each character has their own skill tree, of course, and even if you've leveled up a decent amount and unlocked some skills with one character, you'll start with nothing if you switch characters and will have to grind in order to get anywhere along their skill tree, which is a pain in the ass. It's enough of a pain to grind and is grindy enough even if you don't switch characters, which is fine. The only thing that makes this worse, in my mind, is that every time you die, you lose half of your points, whatever they're called. I don't remember if they had a name or not, but it's like trying to do this half Dark Souls-y kind of thing where you lose stuff when you die, and of course you have to go grab the stuff to get it back, which can really be a problem sometimes, and things on the skill tree get fairly expensive fairly quickly, and the enemies, certainly in the starting area, apart from bosses obviously, don't really drop much stuff, and so it can be a pain to level up, and it feels, again, slightly unbalanced in some places, in some ways. I feel like maybe that's one of them, because I got to the first boss fairly early on, hadn't really had a chance to level anything up myself or getting skills, because you level up and you have a skill tree. So I didn't feel like I was prepared enough, and then I had to go back and grind with some of the smaller enemies in the opening area, and at the very beginning it wasn't too bad because they weren't too expensive, but they very quickly got way more expensive than seemed necessary, and it took a little while to even get past the first portion of the game and the first boss. Of course, I mentioned that you lose stuff when you die, and that is especially annoying because I got to a point eventually that has pits, or it's just on the side of a cliff, so there are places where you can fall, and every time you die, you lose half of your collected stuff, which is annoying. And so I was traversing these cliffs, this cliff area, kind of in the bottom right of where I explored, or have explored so far, and instead of fall damage or falling off these cliffs taking just a little bit of damage off and just putting you back where you fell from, or jumped from, or whatever the case may be, falling off of these cliffs and off screen, I guess, is instant death. You instantly lose half your stuff, because of course you do, and then you're very likely to just die again on your way to collect it, because the platforming, especially in that section, isn't quite precise enough to account for it. Sometimes your level up juice, I don't know what it's called, is basically inaccessible or kind of hovering in midair over the pit so you can collect it and then die again, so what's the point? And this isn't just a problem in this specific area, but it was especially annoying in this area. The enemies are sometimes in the worst places they possibly could be, which means you just get stuck in a loop where you're getting attacked. So either you die from fall damage because the jumps don't work properly, or you die from getting knifed in the face by an enemy, or crabbed to death, or whatever the hell it is, or puffins. Puffins are a pain in my ass. Again, this isn't unique to this area necessarily, I don't think. It's definitely the place where it happened the most often, but trying to make any sort of progress sometimes can be a real pain. Overall, I personally find the game to be just a little bit too difficult, maybe a little unbalanced, as I said, although, again, I'm not a connoisseur of Metroidvanias, so I'm not sure how much of that is me, and how much of that is the game, so take that with a grain of salt. I only sort of know what I'm talking about most of the time. One good thing is that it can be played in co-op, but I don't really play games with anyone. I don't know anyone who plays games, certainly not as much as I do, so I don't have anybody to play with, so I couldn't really take advantage of that. I think it would probably be much easier with more people. Maybe, I don't know. The bosses certainly would be. Maybe I would have had a bit of a better time, or gotten a little farther, or not gotten as frustrated, but as it is, I think I've gotten as far in the game as I can, or possibly as far as I want to. I don't know. We'll see if I continue, if I persevere or not. That's been my experience with Curse of the Sea Rats, though. Let me know what you think down in the comments down below, whether you've heard of this game, tried it yourself, want to try it now. If you're a fan of Metroidvanias and have played it, let me know what you think, because as I said, it's a genre I do not know much about other than the basics, because I haven't played very many. So if you have any input, please let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you in the next episode.